We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Caroline. I'm the Sustainability Specialist for the Office of Sustainability and Campus Enrichment. Thank you all for joining us today. We have four former students with us, all who which participated in our office in a number of different ways, whether through the Aggie Green Fund or through our sustainability internship program. They all contributed to a more sustainable campus at Texas A&M. So we're really excited to have them here today. Something that I love about sustainability is how diverse the industry is. There are so many different realms that you can explore, and I think that is very well represented today with all the different industries that our panelists have gone into while still incorporating sustainability or focusing on sustainability in their career path. So today we'll get to hear from them and their experience going from the office to their current careers today and any advice they have for students at A&M. So, a little space setting to start. If you want to join our Slack and hear more about opportunities on or off campus to get involved with sustainability, you can scan that QR code on that screen. I post internship opportunities, and if you just want to chat with other people or see who else is involved in sustainability, that's a great way to do so. We'll be recording this session, so if that makes you uncomfortable, feel free to turn your camera off. We'll be posting it on our YouTube, so you're welcome to revisit it later, or you can recommend it to a friend who wasn't able to make it. Our live transcript is on, so if you need closed captions, you can turn that on. And if you have any questions throughout the panel, I'll start with some pre-prepared questions and then we'll go into open Q&A. If you have anything pop up, there's a Q&A button on your toolbar. So you can pop that in there so you don't forget your questions. A little bit of an intro to our office. We're here to make sustainability an Aggie tradition through a lot of different programs and initiatives. And if you're interested, there are a number of ways to get involved. Our nearest upcoming events. The first, we're having our first Sustain Social. So if you're interested in meeting other students in sustainability and doing a fun hands-on craft, we have an event February 17th at 5 p.m. in MSC 2403. We'll be making DIY wall decor with like natural elements as well as crafting elements. So there's a little example on the screen if you're wondering what that looks like. And then we have our intern sustainability workshop on February 25th in the MSC as well at 2:30. So come if you want to learn more about water management internationally, sustainable fashion, and environmental risk throughout Texas. A lot of very fun, different topics, and there will be some fun games to play, and you'll get to talk with the current sustainability interns. All right. So now I'm going to pass it over to the panelists and have them introduce themselves. We'll start with Adia, who is our most recent graduate.
Yes. Hi, my name is Adia. I just graduated last May, and I worked with the Office of Sustainability for about 3 years, both as an intern and as a technician. And I'm currently a first year law student at UT.
Hi, I'm Faiza. I was class of 22, and I was a sustainability intern, I think in 2020, because COVID had hit. And I also did Aggie Green Fund. I was a marketing chair for a year, and I currently work as a research specialist for the Economic Development Department at the City of Garland.
Hey everybody, I'm Craig Wolf. I class of 2017. I was on the Aggie Green Fund 2 separate years, one of those years being chair. And I currently work at a renewable energy developer called RES, or Renewable Energy Systems. And I work on managing projects through the interconnection queue, as well as running power flow studies and production cost modeling to identify where good locations are to put new clean energy projects.
Howdy, I'm Samantha Jameson, and I'm noticing the order here. So I was an intern in the office for 4 semesters about 12 years ago, which is shocking. But I'm incredibly proud of what you guys have put together and that you guys are just doing everything that you're doing. It was a very good time in my life. But I'm the communications manager for something called the Alliance to Advance Climate Smart Agriculture at Virginia Tech. which is an $80 million USDA grant-funded program that provides financial incentives for farmers adopting climate-smart agricultural practices.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. We'll now get into some questions. Just a little starter question. How does your current role relate to sustainability and why did you choose it? We can go in the order we went in introductions, or if someone feels super compelled to go first, we can also do that.
Yeah, I'll start then. So as a first year law student, I'm currently just working on, deepening my understanding of the law. I've found that a lot of legal principles relate back to like sustainability goals, especially when it comes to social sustainability and concepts of like equity and justice. I haven't had the chance to specialize in my classes yet, but once I do, I am planning on seeking out opportunities to work on more specific sustainability concepts, especially environmental law. There's a lot of opportunities as a law student to take specific classes. They also offer things like clinics and then, of course, internships as well. I chose this path just because I felt like I've always had an interest in the legal field and I wanted to combine it with my interest in sustainability. It was just where I felt like I could make the most impact personally.
So as I mentioned previously, I work for the Economic Development Department. And yeah, so when I was an intern at the A&M Office of Sustainability, we talked about equity a lot. For a system to be sustainable, it can't be if you're not thinking of equitable solutions. And so when you work for a city, you have to remember that you are working for the citizens. And Garland specifically has over 250K residents. We're the 13th largest city in Texas. That's a lot of people to think about. And when you are in this role, right, our department is bringing in new businesses. We're working with small businesses. We're only a staff of 7. And so we want to make sure that at the forefront of everything is how can we help people and not sort of fall into this rabbit hole of like, how can we bring more money into our departments, right? Because government systems are really, really expensive. We have emergency departments and there's so much funding, but we want to make sure that we're giving back. So for me, sustainability, I always think about it in that sense. But in a more traditional way, we also work with the EPA. And so currently I'm working on them with a brownfield grant. We want to revitalize those areas in the city, hopefully bring some good development. And so I like that on both ends, I get to work with people and the citizens, and I also get to work on more like climate related as well, because I did study geoscience here at A&M. I chose economic development because my minor is in planning, and I went to grad school for analytics and planning. And I kind of fell into transportation before this job. And I was just modeling right turns. I was like adding turn lanes, and I wanted to be a little bit more involved in my career. And so I'm really enjoying economic development, and I would definitely recommend it for someone looking for a new role within sustainability and in the environment as well.
Cool. And mine might be a little on the nose, but my company essentially develops utility scale solar farms, wind farms, energy storage, and so we're clearly trying to kind of transition the grid to cleaner fuel types and more sustainable power generation that's causing less pollutants and such. So constantly trying to either get projects across the finish line and all the way to actually being built, or finding new good spots for new projects to be built, so that they finding good spots that allows them to ultimately get built. Because if you find bad spots, they don't get built. Doesn't really help anything. And so yeah, I chose it essentially because it's really directly helping improve the sustainability of our power grid and clean energy. I've always been pretty passionate about that. So yeah.
So my role relates to sustainability in sustainable agriculture specifically. So we help farmers in 4 states adopt climate smart practices. So that reduces their environmental impact, but also helps their bottom line. And then part of our program also creates markets for their climate smart commodities. And so they have an outlet where they can receive a premium for their product, with the long-term end goal of this being a standard for agriculture. And why I chose it, I'm going to again go back about 12 years when sustainability was relatively new on campuses. Um, and especially in Texas, I'm from Virginia, so Texas was new to me altogether. But Texas is a very unique, diverse place, and sustainability was not always a welcome word. And I found that agriculture was the least contentious, but it was also something that affected everybody every day. And so when you're talking to people about certain sustainability initiatives. I remember one interaction was with recycling, and lots of people are from rural communities where they don't have recycling infrastructure, and so that message is lost on them. And so I gravitated towards supporting local business, community development, and that led me into supporting local food systems and then sustainable agriculture. And I could talk all day about it, but you can cut me off, Caroline.
No, it's all amazing. It's great to see how y'all kind of connected it to the internship and just all your different pathways to get there. So that was great. Thank you guys. Right, next question. I'm sure people who are on their internship hunt right now or post-grad job hunt would appreciate some advice for getting summer internships or post-grad jobs. And you can talk about this in general or within the sustainability field.
Um, yeah, I would say I probably don't have as much experience, especially with post-grad jobs than some of the other people here, but I would say a big resource for me and other people I know that were looking for post-grad jobs was like career services. I know A&M has a really great like career services program, especially within the like environmental studies, environmental field. And then also job banks online. I feel like there's a lot of really good like green career, like sustainability related career job banks online. Just look them up. I feel like that's really helpful. And then, sorry, it's my cat. Also showing your interest, like, and making sure, like, to future employers that you like demonstrating an interest in the sustainability field through like volunteering. And then, of course, working with the Office of Sustainability is a great thing to do too.
Yeah, Caroline, I'll send you this after the meeting, but I had a favorite job board that I used when I was looking, and it was really, really helpful. Yeah, I don't want to scare anyone, but the market is so interesting right now that I was just on every job board possible. For me, when I was a student, using A&M as a resource was so, so, so important. And we're lucky that we have a lot of infrastructure in terms of like sustainable. Like we have the Office of Sustainability, or we have the Texas A&M Transportation Institute. I interned at both of these places and I was able to stay connected even after the internship because I was on campus. That was always giving me opportunity to stay involved, grow my resume, and also do work that was interesting to me. I think anyone who's an intern currently and has more time at A&M, I highly recommend the Transportation Institute. The projects are often involved in walkability, and they do also have a public health section, although I wasn't able to work with them much. So yeah, that was really helpful for me personally in terms of getting a job post grad. And also just like you have to keep applying. You're gonna get rejected so many times, but you have to just like keep going. I think when I was applying for my job in environmental specifically, we were kind of on like a decline in environmental jobs. And so for me, finding economic development and seeing that there is a niche for my passions here was important. So definitely like look into things that you think you wouldn't have enjoyed previously.
Cool. And then I'll add a few tips, and if I take too long, cut me off, but this was one I had the most notes on. So for internships specifically, I mean, to kind of, echo what was already said, look far and wide. Don't like pigeonhole yourself into one thing, or it's like, okay, I want to be at this company. I have to get an internship at that company. Like there's plenty of tangential fields or even just less related positions that you can develop or show that you have a skill at that could be transferable. So that's probably the first point of advice. Um, Another would be if you can do it, I wouldn't start out with it, but if worst comes to worst, you can't find anything. If you can do it, you can offer to be unpaid. And that might make a company that's like, I don't have money for an internship, be like, oh, well, if you just want to help me out with work, great. It looks the same on your resume. No one knows what you made as an intern. Now, if you need to make money, that's a whole separate thing. But if you're able to live with your parents and cut costs and like just work this job to get it on your resume, that could definitely be one way to do it. If you happen to have connections, whether it's family or friends or other people that have graduated A&M that might have jobs, use it. Don't be afraid to ask for help because, again, once you get it on your resume, it doesn't really matter who you talked to get that internship or to get that interview for the internship. It just matters that you now have that experience to your name. Yeah, and I already mentioned experience doesn't have to be specifically related. And then another thing, just and maybe this goes more toward the job questions, but employers, while they're also trying to find the best candidate to like do the role, they're also trying to minimize risk. So by stacking up internships, throughout your time in college, you're showing them I was able to get this job. I was able to do a good job at it. If there's any sort of, quantifiable metrics you could put, or like I got an award for, best intern or something, like that helps because then they know, okay, I can hire this person and I know, they're not gonna 6 months later, I'm gonna have a really tough conversation with them. Like they know you had to know how to compose yourself in a workplace and get jobs done and meet deadlines, etc. And then transitioning to the job side, I did a few A&M career fairs. So I previously worked at ERCOT actually, which is the ISO in charge of the power grid for Texas. And so we would do the career fair at Texas A&M. And the probably the biggest differentiator in terms of like, yeah, this candidate definitely like make sure to recommend them to HR versus, all right, this one just goes with the rest of them is, do they actually know the company that they're asking for a job at or asking to be intern at? Because if they're just like, here's my resume, what do you do? Why should you want to hire them? That's the first thing. And if they know something about your company, they have a reason why they want to join, then that immediately stands out. It means they did their homework and they came prepared. And then the second thing, which is pretty obvious, I mean, obviously do good at school, get good grades. You know, that's the next thing people will look at. Not that like, a 3.6 is better than 3.55 and that's going to be the difference, but 3.6 is different than a 2.5 and that will make a difference. So just, work hard, get good grades. And yeah, so I'll stop there before I take too much time.
That was awesome. I love this is nice going last because everybody sort of hits the topics, but I had a lot of notes about this one too. I would say first is like you guys are already in the sustainability office or familiar with the pillars is what Craig said. Don't limit yourself to one pillar. There are sustainability can be weaved through everything. And so don't limit yourself to a job title. I would focus more on the organization. And then remember that whatever job you get or internship you get, you can make sustainability a component of that. That can be a conversation you have in the interview. It can be something that you can or ask questions about. You'd be surprised what comes up with that. So I would say don't limit yourself in terms of I'm in an urban planning program. I want to work specifically for XYZ. You can get all sorts of experiences employers are looking for by working for things outside of your intended industry. The listservs, the organizations, I'm sure the four of us can come bring Caroline a whole bunch of ones. I'm sure we were all in that same boat. My other one is don't be afraid to reach out to people. I mean, that's the reason that LinkedIn exists. And I've had excellent connections, and I've had actually interns that have reached out to me that have been able to connect with opportunities. We are living in a very connected world and take advantage of that. Whether it's following all the organizations that you like and just tracking jobs that way. A lot of them do kind of the direct to consumer job postings, but also just reaching out to individuals. If you attend a seminar or in a class or something and you have questions, follow up with that person. Very often they will enjoy talking to you and establishing that connection can lead either with a position with their company or with something else. So I think you'll be surprised. And you guys, you're already doing this. I do not want to minimize the impact of a Texas A&M Aggie ring when you were interviewing. I was interviewing in Virginia, and the person I got to the third round interview, and it was an in-person interview. First person I sit down with was an Aggie back from 1972, and he saw the ring, and the entire demeanor changed. Kind of feels like cheating, but we know how awesome we all are. So don't underestimate the degree that you're getting.
I
Lots of
also
great. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add real quick because I've been seeing this a little bit now that I've reached a point in my career where I'm looking at resumes as opposed to submitting my resume. Most companies do the automatic resume checking now, and it's not like scary or anything, but there's a specific format that's preferred to put your resume in. And like, yeah, so it can't be bright pink. You can't use bubble letters. It'll like reject you immediately. And I know A&M has resources to help you create a really good resume. Do that. Put time into it. Once it's done, you can just use it for like the next 2 years until you have to update, right? So really put in that time in the beginning.
Yes, lots of great advice, great insight there. All the resources y'all talked about, feel free to send them my way, and I'll send them out to all the registrants panel. Okay, next question. How did you use your undergraduate experience to market yourself to employers or in graduate school applications?
So I definitely whenever I was applying to law school, I definitely heavily emphasized my work, specifically at the Office of Sustainability. I wrote a lot about it in my personal statement, mostly because it was like, like a big part of my undergraduate experience. I talked about not just like how it made me passionate about sustainability, but also the skills that I gained, especially when it comes to, I would say, like the outreach and communications work. I feel like that's really important. And then they also a lot of applications want to hear about like how you can connect with people and talk to people that have differing views than you, like opposite opinions and stuff. I feel like that's really important, and that's definitely a skill that I gained from working at the office. So I talked about that a lot. And then outside of that, a lot of my classes that I took in undergrad related to the legal field, like my ethics class or my policy classes. So I definitely mentioned that in my applications as well.
Yeah, for me, it was pretty similar. I talked about the Office of Sustainability a lot, mostly because I think after my internship there, a lot of my internships were technical, and that was fun, but I missed the aspect of connecting with people, talking with people about sustainability and the environment. And when I was looking to go to grad school specifically, I was looking at programs that were both analytical and urban planning focused. And I wanted to make sure to emphasize that I wanted to work in the intersection. I wasn't interested in just being a data analyst or just a planner. I recommend there was a class I took called Python for Geosciences. That was super helpful for me. I think for me personally, I think it's a really good thing to have even a little bit of background experience in some sort of coding language. And that class was really fun and really easy and a cool intro. I think that helped me a lot to like move my career forward, get into grad school. So yeah, those would be my two pieces of advice.
Cool. And I'd say, I mean, my experience on the green funds was definitely probably what I marketed the most. And that organization is unique because you can have leadership ability. You are reviewing applications, you are setting schedules and deadlines, and you're essentially managing a large amount of money that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to. So I would say definitely, at least with the Aggie Green Fund, kind of talking about that. But to my point earlier about transferable skills, I mean, it's not just that it was the Green Fund, it's that you've proven you can hold a leadership position, that you can manage processes and people, you can work with others, and you're responsible for all those things. So really, even if it's not a club that's specifically sustainable or an organization that's specifically sustainable related, if you just do something and you do well and like work up to leadership, anything that shows that you can be really good at something or you can be really responsible for something, that's transferable. Even if it's not sustainability, that can still show that someone with a sustainability job or internship should give you the opportunity there.
I'm going to echo a couple other things, but I would say we did a lot of public speaking in the internship. I think that's really important as a skill by itself, but also because to be an effective public speaker, you have to know the topic very well. And I think it goes back to a little bit what Craig said of when you know the organization, whether it's grad school or the employer that you're interviewing with, it really helps if you show a knowledge of their work, a little bit of their history. You have really specific, good questions. I think one thing that gets lost, especially right out of college when you're interviewing, is that yes, you're interviewing them, but they're also interviewing you, right? I mean, you have every opportunity there to ask them questions, make sure it's the right cultural and um, I don't say academic fit, but a good fit for you in more than one way. So showing your knowledge that you've done the research, you care about the position. I think you guys would be surprised how often that does not happen in interviews and in applications, and I think that matters. So if you're selling yourself to them, but they'd also be lucky to have you. I think that's something you should remember when you're applying. Um, I also think it's really important when you're applying to think about experiences in the internship where you have seen something through from the planning phase through execution, and you're able to articulate that in your head and then explain how that process worked, whether it's a technical project or an outreach project. Identifying the audience, identifying the tools, how they're going to track success and progress, and then next steps. You guys have all done this, I'm sure, in your coursework and in the internship, and that's something that employers are going to want to see that you're familiar with and can continue to bring forward.
Thank y'all. I really also liked the note that Samantha made about how employers or schools are also lucky to have someone with your abilities. So never underestimate yourself. All right, last question before we turn it over to the audience. What inspires you to continue this work and how do you avoid burnout?
Yeah, I would say for me, I feel the most inspired whenever I'm surrounded by people that care about like sustainability and the same things that I care about. Just like seeing like a big group of people or seeing how many people care about the same things, I just find that really inspiring. And it makes me feel like if we all work together, we can really get it done. And it's just nice to see that other people care about the same things that you care about, I guess, and that you're not alone in it. I would say on that note, and like avoiding burnout, I feel like I do try to like seek out like-minded people and people that are passionate about sustainability as well. Like for example, I joined the Environmental Law Society on campus, and I'm still trying to, find my niche, I guess, in that. But yeah, just and also focusing on the positives, it's really easy, I feel like, to get into kind of like a doom spiral about it, especially nowadays. But just trying to focus on the good things that happen whenever they do, and yeah, just like be around people that understand you and that want the same things as you do.
Yeah, so I would say that I am really early in my career. I've only been working for about 2 years now. And when I was in school, I was learning so many new things. It was constantly inspiring. And then I fell into this cycle of when I was working, I was doing the same thing over and over again, and I was adjusting to a new career. And so I feel like that was leading to burnout. And so I think something that has been really helpful for me to stay inspired and not be burnt out is constantly volunteer. I think if once y'all start a full-time job after work, sometimes you can be tired. And so I really recommend phone banking. You can do it from home, like from your couch. And then food pantries, just like be involved in your community. It was already said previously, but being around like-minded people is super, super helpful. So yeah, that would be how I stay inspired.
Yeah, and I think building on what Faiza said, I mean, I I think I personally did experience burnout in my first role at ERCOT, which I think ended up pivoting me towards where I am at RES. But in that, a lot of that has to do with if you're doing the same thing year after year after year, which you don't necessarily experience in college because your classes change all the time. But if you have the same job for multiple years, that can definitely lead to burnout. So one thing might be switch it up. I mean, a lot of if when you eventually get into a full-time job or an internship's usually shorter, but like a full-time job, they don't want to lose you. They don't. Most companies don't want to lose you. They don't want to burn you out. So you could probably position or switch positions into a new role at the company, or even if it's less extreme than that, maybe there's different people on your team that have slightly different responsibilities, and you're like, well, hey, maybe I could try doing that one, and you take this one, or something like that, to avoid getting to that spot. But yeah, making sure you're kind of evaluating. I mean, seeing as this is for the office sustainability, that you're sustainable in how you are working and your mental state as you work, because the other thing I'll note is once you're burnt out, it's almost too late. It's not at that point. It's like small changes aren't going to cut it. You would need a big change. So if you even have those hints that I think I'm getting burnt out, look into making smaller changes that could prevent it before you're fully burnt out.
Like I said, I've been out of college for about 12 years. My first job out of college, I 100% experienced burnout. I was working in corporate social responsibility. I was the single sustainability representative on a huge campus, and none of whom appreciated the efforts. Um, but luckily, I had a wonderful supportive boss who taught me that it's okay to ask and to like, because you will know if you're starting to burn out. Like Craig said, if you're feeling it already, it might be a little bit too late. So I would say just open communication with your team is important. Don't let it get to the point where you're feeling frustrated and alone. I think you'll be surprised. I think I'm going to echo what Adia said is like-minded people really, really help. And it's not necessarily on paper. I think the more that you communicate, the more that you'll find that people actually are on your side, even if there are disagreements in how things are done or what the topic is. Sustainability, like, is a good example of that. But I think open communication. I wrote a huge list for this and then realized it was turning into a tangent. First of all, I'm inspired. I am very lucky to work in agriculture. I get to work with farmers every day. and nothing will inspire you and also make you feel like you're not working hard enough than working with farmers. And they're wonderful. So I do a lot of behind the scenes. I had built the applicant tracking system. I spend a lot of time on the computer. And then I am lucky enough to be able to go out in the field at least quarterly and go and connect with farmers and hear their stories, their struggles, and then how our program has been helping them. And there's nothing better in the world than that. And I'm sure there's a parallel in every position. Um, After my long rant about avoiding burnout, I think the biggest takeaway is it's okay to say no. I remember this when I was really new in my career. It's like I felt guilty saying no, so I wanted to say yes to everything, and nothing will burn you out faster than that. So learning when to say no, be strategic about it, but learning what's on your plate already is enough, and then when to say, okay, that sounds great, I can handle that, but it won't be until next week. And then simple things that again, 12 years and I'm still learning, blocking time on your calendar and saying no emails, no calls. I need to get something done. I need 2 hours, and then just block out the rest of the world. Um, my boss, my current boss, always says we're not saving lives. It's very easy to get passionate about what we do and want to do everything at once and just remember it's okay. We have tomorrow. People will be okay. Open communication again is key there. And another trick I've learned in the last year is an auto response to your email. Sounds small, it's not big and theoretical, but sometimes, hey, I'm in the office, I'm here, I'm currently busy with this project, and I will get back to you as soon as I'm able. So it's twofold. There's the bigger picture things of taking care of yourself, but also small little tips and tricks to just knowing yourself, knowing how you work, knowing what you need and what you don't need. I guess we'll be fine.
Lots of great sentiments there about connection and community, but also setting boundaries. I love that. It's a lot to juggle in the sustainability world, so it's always good to be aware of what you need as well. All right, now we're going to pivot into the audience Q&A session. And we have a question in the Q&A chat, so y'all can add your questions there, or after I read out this question, you can unmute yourself and ask it yourself. And for this Q&A session, everyone's welcome to contribute, but yeah, whoever's drawn to answer it can answer it. But the first question's from Samantha. A little confusing. We have a Samantha panelist, but also someone else on the Zoom named Samantha. In each of your jobs, what opportunities are available for different educational backgrounds? Bachelor's versus master's versus PhD level jobs.
So I work in higher education. I work at Virginia Tech, and I will say that for most positions, between new graduates and then where I'm at, it's usually bachelor's preferred or bachelor's required and master's preferred. And I will say they put that, and that we're going through a hiring process right now, and they put that on there. But I think the right candidate, they're flexible on that. If you bring the right level of experience, there's always flexibility in that. Um, but yeah, I would be mindful of that. Actually, I'll tell you a little story before my first job, which I loved out of A&M, I was still there and I flew back to Virginia for my dream job. I was down to one or two candidates. And the reason I did not get the job was because I did not have a graduate degree, which is not by any means necessary, but it definitely I had a little grudge in it. So I got my graduate degree about 3 years ago. But I would say I talked to the woman who interviewed me, and she said her best advice is if you have that, they're asking for a master's and you don't have it, address it in the interview or in somewhere in your application and pull out the experience. And it's okay to address it. And not everyone's experience or ability is as linear as undergraduate, graduate job. So just address your strengths. Don't worry about your weaknesses. But I would say if you see that on job posting as master's preferred, don't let it stop you.
I'll say it at Res. I know, well, Res is actually a very big company and they have a huge construction arm, and I'm sure there's a lot of jobs on that side that probably don't even require a bachelor's, more so like trade experience. But for most on the development side, I think bachelor's is probably required. I don't think I'm not super involved in all the hiring process. I don't think master's is usually required, but I'm sure it's always beneficial to have it. Maybe for higher up, executive positions or, where you're leading teams and stuff, maybe that might be more often a requirement. But I'm not aware of PhD specific requirements for any of our jobs, but again, I'm sure whatever you can turn into valuable experience or valuable knowledge that you can convey to whoever's trying to hire you as a plus, a reason they should hire you, be better at the job than someone else, do that. Doesn't matter if it's required or not. And really, it's for your internships, for your clubs you join, all of it. Anything you can do to make it applicable to them, and they're like, oh, I'm glad you have that experience. It's good.
Yeah, just to echo what's been said, I think what matters the most is being proud of your work and able to convey the fact that you know what you're doing, right? So if in an interview you can talk about your projects confidently, that's what matters the most. What I found helpful when I was applying for jobs when I had my master's degree is sometimes they wanted work experience, like 3 years work experience, and a master's degree can substitute for that. And I really enjoyed grad school. And so for me, it was preferable to get my bachelor's degree and go to grad school and then apply for those roles as opposed to work right out of undergrad and then apply for those roles, if that makes sense. I also think grad school is a great place to specialize. Undergrad is super broad, and I don't think it's fully. I don't think that was fully understandable to me until I got to grad school, and I was like, "Oh, this is very different." My boss has a PhD, and he doesn't recommend a PhD if you want to go into corporate. And so I guess that's food for thought. But if you want to go into research or do some sort of research, like even corporate research, like moving forward, if you want to work for a nonprofit or a think tank, I think PhDs are pretty vital for that specifically. But at the end of the day, just be proud of your work and be able to talk about it confidently.
Yeah, I mean, you do need a bachelor's degree to go to law school. Say that there's no requirements on master's degree or anything. I do know a lot of people, my fellow students that have master's degree. I don't know of anyone that has a PhD, but I don't think it's uncommon necessarily. I would say, if you do, yeah, if you have something that you're super interested in, I think it's good for both applications and then looking for jobs afterwards. I think employers do like to see that. But yeah, there's also no requirements on what you need to study. There's a lot of different people in my classes that have all kinds of crazy degrees. So
I'll add one more tangent kind of related thing is if you're interested in a master's, you're trying to decide between, do I go get a job out of undergrad or do I get a master's? A really good option is go work for a company, and a lot of decently sized companies will then give you money towards a master's degree, graduate degree. Now, it may not cover everything depending on what you do, where you go, et cetera, but a few thousand a year, and you may have to be like work a year and then start. But if you can be disciplined and like, all right, I'm going to do this job and I'm going to do this degree, you can make it work, especially with more and more online degrees or programs that have online classes. I mean, I personally did an online MBA with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and I mean, they're making classes specifically for people to do from across the world and make it accessible and affordable. And I most of that ended up being covered by my first job. So you can find those opportunities to do both. You don't necessarily have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, and I want to plug Georgia Tech specifically, actually. I didn't know this when I was applying for grad school, but if you're a TA or a research assistant, they cover your tuition completely. And there are a lot of schools out there, but for me, Georgia Tech was a really good experience. And if anyone's interested, they can always reach out. I would love to like talk about their programming more.
Great. Moving on to our next question from Logan. What kinds of questions would you recommend asking interviewers?
I
Oh, sorry, you can go for it first.
Sorry, the first example I have would be depends on where you're interviewing, but there is some project or some program that your company inevitably runs, and so I would read that and then ask specific questions on how did this get started, what did this address, how is this going, um, and then at least from my perspective, because I'm a communications manager, is asking about impact. So I think employers like to know that there's an investment and you're interested in how the work is being perceived and how it's progressing. So get specific would be my advice.
Yes, get specific about the company. And then also, like, if this is bad advice, you didn't hear it from me, but I always look on the LinkedIn of the people interviewing me, and it's never
Yeah.
creeped them out before. I'll be like, on your LinkedIn, I saw this, this, and this, or you did this degree. Like, how did that help you? Or, just asking them about them. I am like naturally curious. So when you are asking, don't sound bored, right? Like don't sound like you're doing it to get the job. Like be interested. But form a connection with the person interviewing you and then follow up, email them and follow up so that they remember you.
Yeah, the email follow-up is important. I will also say, just as we're going through a hiring process of it's okay when the interview turns into a bit of a conversation, which is why those questions are good. And a really good takeaway is that the more time that people can spend talking about themselves or a project they're proud of, they will leave the interview having a better impression of how it went. Whether that's conscious or not, I don't know. But the more you can get them to talk and kind of come out of their shell, they're going to walk away with a good impression.
I'll add to kind of touch on the same points you guys are saying, but um, they're the questions you ask and the quality of the question is a part of the interview. Because if you have no questions, that's kind of a red flag. It says maybe you don't know enough to ask any questions because obviously you don't know everything. You're interviewing for this position you've never worked before. Um, if you ask, I mean, I would also not recommending asking like super logistic questions like what's the salary or what's like, don't talk about money when you're trying to get the job first. That kind of comes later. Um, but then ask questions that show, and I don't mean to be disingenuous about it, but ask questions to show what you know in a sense that ask something to Samantha's point, ask something about the job or about the company and what they're doing and find something that's interesting to you that you actually want to know the answer to. But it shows, hey, I researched the company and I saw you guys are doing this, or I saw that this is part of your core functions. You know, how is this challenge from the, I don't know, from the government or from the environment or from the supply chain, whatever? How is this affecting you guys? And it just shows, oh, well, I looked up what your company does and I know what's going on outside that might affect you guys. And you can have that intelligent conversation that might actually be a conversation more than an interview. So know that, and then always ask questions about the position just to get a better understanding, not only for your sake, but then it shows your interest in the position, and will help both you and them make better decisions, and will hopefully lead to more of a conversation that either can convey your. You might be like, oh, that's great. I did this at this position at the Office of Sustainability, or I did this from some club or from some internship. And so if you know what they're looking for, which is, I'll go on more of a tangent. If you ask them, you know, what does success look like in this position or what does the ideal candidate look like, then you're almost getting the cheat code and be like, oh, well, I have this experience. Let me tell you how I am your perfect candidate. So yeah, I'll kind of, without going too much longer, put some thought into your questions. Actually, one last tangent is I remember when I was initially going out of A&M looking for jobs, you can look at places like Glassdoor and whatnot to also get an idea of what questions have been asked in past interviews. No guarantee it's going to happen again, but that way you can kind of have not a canned response, but like, okay, if they ask me this, I'm going to bring up this experience and this, and be a little bit more prepared rather than they could ask one of a million questions.
Thank y'all. Stop my sharing my screen. Well, does anyone else have any more questions from the audience? Feel free to put it in the chat or in the Q&A, or you can unmute yourself.
Can I ask some questions that have nothing to do with this?
Well,
Just while
yes, of
people
course.
are ruminating and coming up with things, but I would like to know what building you guys are in. Because I feel like as an old person, but back in my day, I had to bike like 4 miles to get to the office. And it looks like you guys are in a different spot.
Yes, we're in the pavilion now, which is right next, not right next to, but near the oceanography building.
Hi, Kelly.
Yes, Kelly Review.
That's awesome. You guys are
And
actually
so
on campus.
it's so much nicer. So
Yeah,
they, yeah, our students don't have to trek 4 miles. They don't know how lucky they are.
it was good exercise. It was fine.
The last 3 years have been back on the main campus, so it's been very nice.
Oh, that's so nice. You guys earned it for sure. Very nice. Kelly, do you still have your Millennium Falcon?
I do. It's just up higher.
Of course it doesn't. Yeah. It is. Nice.
Beautiful. Well, looks like we just don't have any more questions in the chat, but I would like to ask y'all, is there any last words that you want to share for students at Texas A&M today working in sustainability?
Yeah, don't be discouraged. You guys are doing all the right things. The market is bad right now, but y'all are doing this internship, and that means you're passionate about your work. So go into everything with a positive mindset, and it will be okay. You will get the job, you will further your career, and then you'll be on a panel too in a couple of years, and you can tell a bunch of other interns not to worry, and it'll be great.
And I'll just kind of add on to that is when you do what you're passionate about, usually you find success or success finds you.
Yes.
Because usually it also means it's something you're good at and something that talent shows, and then other opportunities just kind of arise. So just, yeah, follow your passions, and I'm sure you guys will be great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us. And can I just say thank you to our panelists for all this wonderful advice and taking time out of their day to impart their wisdom and lots of great advice, things to think about when you're applying for your next job. You can shout out the Green Career Showcase. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining. And I'll be sending out the recording as well as any resources that the panelists send me to everyone who's registered. And the recording will be up on the YouTube. And we hope to see you at future events. Bye,
So just
everyone.
one more thing. I want to
Oh,
encourage
yes.
everybody, if they want to connect, and I don't know the other three panelists, I'm sure, but connect with us on LinkedIn. I think it's a vastly underused resource. It's been, I mean, since I graduated, it has been opened up more opportunities than anything else. So I would, if you guys don't have one, get one and then find us.
I'll second that. It's your online
Yes.
resume where people can
Yeah.
find you
And the
without
Aggie
having to
network
apply.
is like, it's no joke.
Mm-hmm.
We're a lucky bunch.
Yes, I love the LinkedIn message feature. I used it so
Mhm.
much when I was in my job search. So definitely utilize that. All right. Well, thank you again. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.
Well, thanks and
Thanks,
giggums. I never
everyone.
get to say that anymore.
Thanks,
But
y'all.
thank you guys so much.
So great to
See you
see you,
guys.
Greg, Faiza, Sam, Adia.
You
Thank y'all so
guys,
much.
bye.
Nice to see you guys too. See you, everybody.
Bye.